Hello, and welcome to a new episode of From the Honeycomb, a podcast that creates a spark of positive energy. Here we discuss all things architecture and design, to travel, exploring Vastu Shastra with a modern approach, and I connect with other like-minded women to share their story. I'm your host, Katerina, and welcome to From the Honeycomb. And welcome to this week's episode, where I am sitting down with my husband, Jesse.
Hello, everyone.
We just got back from our trip to Santa Ynez in the Santa Barbara Mountains, Santa Barbara County, so just north of LA. And we didn't think this episode would happen. It's been kind of a long day, to be honest. We got home. We've had some chores and some things that have kind of come up, but we wanted to sit down and talk about this trip because it was a trip for my birthday. So, yeah, happy birthday, me.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, my birthday was yesterday. This recording does come out end of March, so it's still my birthday month. But March 7th was my birthday, and we kind of went for a little getaway to the Santa Ynez area. Santa Ynez. There's a question if it's Santa Ynez or Santa Ynez.
And it's Santa Ynez.
It's Santa Ynez. I keep saying Santa Ynez. But anyway, let's jump into the episode. All right, as we begin every episode, we like to take a moment and think of something that we are grateful for in the present moment. So, Jesse, what are you grateful for?
I am grateful that we prioritize our self-love. Like today, one, we got back from a trip where we took a mental break and then came back and went to the sauna. And it's really revitalizing and restorative. Just that, we don't do a lot. We don't eat a lot. We ate a lot this week for your trip, but the few things in life that we take extra care for is our well-being, our physical, mental well-being. I'm just grateful that we do that.
No, absolutely. I think I agree with that was what I was going to say is what I'm grateful for is sauna. And then you knew that because I told you in the sauna I was going to say I'm grateful for it.
I don't remember that.
That's okay.
But I believe you.
Yeah. No, it is. It's we got back from a trip and we definitely, we were in wine country. We enjoyed wine. We ate out a lot, which we don't really do. So you were saying, high sodium in our meals. And it was really nice to come back from the trip and just get in the sauna and detox because, I feel so good right now. That's one of the reasons this episode almost didn't come out is we're both so relaxed that it was a job to get this episode out. But
yeah, and then I literally just walked in the door from a good haircut.
Yeah.
Where it's a good, it's a good quality haircut with a scalp massage. I mean, it's just
really?
I know. Well, you never get your mom cut your hair, so you don't get that experience. Yeah. But it's I don't spend a lot of money on toys or gadgets or junk like that, but I'll spend money on a good quality experience,
No, absolutely. Yeah, and we have dinner in the oven right now, so I might have to jump off really quick during this episode. So it's kind of this is, you guys are hearing us raw, straight from a trip. We even had a little load of laundry here and there done too. So let's talk about Santa Ynez.
Santa Ynez.
Santa Ynez.
Was very fun.
It was really fun. We were trying to figure out how we picked to go there. So again, just to kind of back up, Santa Ynez is in Santa Barbara County, just north of LA. We live in Orange County, which is south of LA, and it's about a 3.5-hour drive for us. And it's probably we were kind of talking about it too earlier, it's part of the central, so you have California, there's the Northern California, Southern California, and then you kind of have that central part of California. So this is the southern part of the central coast of California. Santa Ynez is in Santa Barbara County, just north of Santa Barbara, probably a half-hour, 45-minute drive, depending on if you take the ocean route or the inland route. But yeah, so that's kind of geographically where Santa Ynez is. And we're trying to figure out why we picked it. And I know we were thinking somewhere to go for my birthday, wanted to keep it kind of local, and we talked possibly about going to, Santa Barbara, Solveng, that's right. Solveng kind of came up, and we're oh, well, that would be, kind of a good area to go to, but, we'll see. And then I started picking out some Airbnbs in the area that were available. I always send Jesse a curated list of Airbnbs, what I think about them, the cost, what are the pros and cons. And the Airbnb that we ended up staying at is kind of the reason we ended up going there.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the Airbnb?
So the Airbnb was a working farm, and it was an outbuilding. Looked like it had like a little 1 bedroom, really good sized Airbnb actually, but it was attached to like a barn structure, which was cool. The reason I was mostly drawn to it was because the Airbnb description mentioned that they had a chicken coop and that guests were welcome to interact with the chickens and collect any eggs that we came across in the coop. So that was like my big draw, just because when I was a small child, my grandparents had a ranch and they had all different kinds of animals. They had a very large chicken coop and a very large turkey coop. And we would always go in and collect the eggs. Like they would always take the grandkids in and collect the eggs. And some of them they would incubate for like the next generation of chickens. And then some of them, we would enjoy eating. And so I always have a real fond memory of that. And that was my big draw for why we picked this specific Airbnb.
Mm-hmm. And they also had donkeys.
Two donkeys, 2 goats, 2 sheep.
A horse.
1 horse.
Like 3 or 4 cats.
3 or 4 cats that we saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there was more on their description of animals and their animal.
Oh, for sure. And then the kind of bummer when we arrived, which we didn't know, is a couple weeks ago, somebody left the gate into the chicken coop open, and a coyote got in and ate all the chickens. So they are working on rebuilding their chicken coop as far as chicken count, but the chicks right now are too small to be left alone. So that was really unfortunate. We read that like right away and we were like, are you kidding me? That was kind of, it'd be cool. They said springtime is when chickens would have their eggs. And so we're like, okay, this is like definitely the time to go. But although that was kind of like the bummer about it. And I'll provide a link in the show notes for the Airbnb if you're interested in staying there. It was definitely worth, I think in the end it was fun. It was definitely, the location was amazing. The view of all of the ranches around. I mean, we were on top of a hill. And what was really cool is this farm, like a private kind of estates. So it wasn't like gated community or anything, but it was pretty much like a private area where it was just private ranches. It wasn't really for through traffic.
Yeah, it was definitely very rural.
Very rural. Oh yeah, very rural.
I have a client who lives in Santa Ynez part-time, and they told me, I don't know if we were in one of those areas, but they had told me that the area that they live in, and it seemed like this would be applicable to most of the areas that we were in there, that they have minimum 20-acre lots, and that part of the ordinance is you cannot subdivide your lots, so it keeps the farmlands farms, so that pretty much there's really, what else would you do with 20 acres in that area? Like there's not a lot of crops. There's vineyards. Saw lots of vineyards, and we saw lots of farms, and that's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. You go into town, quote unquote town, which is a couple square blocks of what you'd expect. And you have a grocery store, some couple restaurants, a couple coffee shops, barber shop, post office, and then that's it. That's it for town. So there was a really small suburban area nestled around the town of like a couple more square blocks of more standard size, just regular houses, like half-acre lots. But yeah, where we stayed was all farmland, which was really nice. Really cool. Lots of horses. Horses everywhere. Everywhere you look, there was a horse, which was awesome. I really liked that. Beautiful horses. Too. Oh, yeah. What was the big horses we saw? I don't know if they were Clydesdales. That's right. But they were of the size and muscular structure, and they were just large, super impressive looking animals. They were gorgeous. I mean, every horse looked healthy, gorgeous, oh my gosh, so many different types of horses. But yeah, so that's kind of just to paint the picture of where we were staying. And because of all the rain we've had recently in California, the hills were an absolute beautiful, bright green. I mean, when you had the blue skies and the green hills, we had at one point, when we drove in,
It was raining on and off a little bit. We caught a little bit of the rain, which also, once it cleared up the next day, the mountains to the east of Santa Ynez were covered in snow, so that was absolutely beautiful too. But yeah, so coming into town, we got there a little earlier than the Airbnb check-in allowed. So we stopped in. While we were driving up, I looked for like a place for us to eat, and it ended up being like a billiards room. It was like a bar, and I thought, oh great, like we'll just eat, have a drink, play some pool, and then hopefully we'll be able to check in, once we're able to. The food there was definitely interesting at the bar. It was like a falafel, shawarma, like Middle Eastern food. But then so I never thought I would eat a falafel wrap with a Guinness at a bar while playing pool.
Yeah.
So that was definitely different. But and I'll provide a link in all the show notes too for all the restaurants I mentioned and everything we've kind of did. But so it was kind of a nice stop.
Yeah. Going back to your description of the Airbnb.
Yeah.
Like it's on a hillside. It was on the top of a hill, and every direction. And speaking of you mentioned like the green hills and the blue skies. Every direction you looked, it was in a valley of sorts, because every direction you looked, all you saw was farmland. You did not see commercial building, town. You couldn't even see a road. You looked to the east, and there was a mountain range. You look to the west, there was another mountain range, and then north and south was just nothing but rolling green hills and farmland. It was gorgeous.
And beautiful oak trees. There were so many oak trees. Oh my gosh. Because the place we were staying was like Oak Estates too, or something like that, like the ranch area. But yeah, so it was absolutely gorgeous. And so when we got into town, it was raining a little bit. We had lunch, which was great. Then we kind of strolled around because we did get there actually way earlier than anticipated. And we had some coffee at a place called Pony Espresso. That was really good. We actually went back the next day for lunch. And we just kind of strolled around. A lot of the stores had a lot of equestrian stuff, equestrian clothing. You've got your regular souvenirs. There was a few really cute clothing stores. There was one clothing store we went into that I really liked this one jacket. And the owner there, she designed all the clothing. Beautiful. She had like a loungewear, but it looked very nice. It was like formal loungewear. So you looked very put together and professional. But the jacket just sat out of budget right now for me. But we lived in a colder climate. But just absolutely stunning clothing. And then we finally were able to check into our Airbnb. So we drove up, got to see the beautiful landscape, and it was nice. The Airbnb host did kind of leave us alone. They have their house on the property, and we kind of stayed on the other side, which was really nice. Is the chicken going to be done soon?
Not for another 5 minutes and 43 seconds.
No worries. I see you looking over there. Oh, and so the first day I wanted to go to a vineyard. And the vineyard I wanted to go to is actually where, if you are familiar with the actress Sarah Hyland, she was in Modern Family. She was the eldest daughter, and I don't remember the characters' names, but she was there in that show. And then she ended up marrying Wells Adams, which is someone from Bachelor Nation, for U.S. listeners, if you know. And they got married at this beautiful vineyard in Santa Ynez last summer. And as I was looking for vineyards to go to, I saw this vineyard. It's called Sunstone. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this place looks so beautiful. And I'm like, oh, it looks so familiar. And I remember because they had like a Vogue photo shoot for the wedding. Anyway, absolutely stunning, beautiful French style villa kind of with stonework, overlooking the vineyards. I'm like, this is perfect. So I'm like, let's go there. So we're driving there and totally missed the entrance because Google is telling us to go in through the exit, which should have been our first sign that the universe doesn't want us to go there. We finally get through the parking, and we're in like this lower part of the property, and there's just this like little house, kind of like a stone looking house, and we park there and we go through this courtyard. It's a beautiful courtyard, and they're like, oh, okay, are you here for the wine tasting? We're like, yeah, we're here for wine tasting. And it was so cold though, like for California, and that's kind of where we first struggled. We wanted to sit next to one of the fire pits because they had 3 fire pits, but those weren't available, and it was just really, really cold, and we didn't want to sit inside. I kind of wanted to sit outside to look at the vineyards. California, finally, like we don't have to be indoors, but it was just so cold.
Yeah, there was, of the 3 fire pits, 2 of them only sat 2 people each.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like there was these huge fire rings that, you could see where you could like share with another couple. There was one that maybe 6 people could sit around, but when we got there, there was like 6 people sitting around it. There was like a group of women there. So yeah, it was very cold. We've been in this cold snap for, it's March. It's not like it's May, June. So we've been in this cold snap for a long time now. So it's not like this all of a sudden just came up and nobody was able to be prepared for it. So we feel like they should have had, and it's a large vineyard. They could have easily had those portable propane heaters that, every single restaurant, the restaurants we go to here in Dana Point have them on the regular.
Yeah.
So it's not like, it was, surprising that they didn't have something like that.
Yeah. And just for like reference, it was about 55 Fahrenheit, which is about 10 Celsius. And the thing is in California, we're not built for this. We're not like, we have like, I thought I bundled up, but there's a point where it's like, then I'd rather sit inside. I don't want to sit outside and it'd be like 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, trying to enjoy wine. And like, you could kind of tell everybody else was really cold.
Yeah.
So it just kind of was a little frustrating. They did have this like cave area that you could go into. And that's where they had multiple fire pits, but it was pretty full and it was just super loud. And we're like, we kind of just want to sit and enjoy outside, like the vineyards. So it was kind of like, okay, strike one with the heat. Okay, so then we wanted to go for a walk. So we asked our waitress or our server, hey, can we, where are some good spots to walk? Like, can we see the house? Can we walk through the vineyard? She's like, oh yeah, you can walk down this way and this way. So we walked down the one way to a food truck, which we ended up getting. I got a smoked salmon platter, which was absolutely delicious. But we walked to the food truck, walked back, and then we started going the other way, and we left out of like the main courtyard. And then the valet people there were like, oh, you can't leave this area with like your glasses. And we're like, oh, but we were told we could like walk down this way. And they're like, no, there's nowhere to go here. It's just the parking lot essentially. And then the main big house that was in the wedding, and I saw all over the website, is actually a private residence. So you can't actually go there. We're like, okay, so back to sitting in the cold. So we tried to kind of like, try to, have another glass, but it just, there's the chicken. Okay, 1 second. Okay, and we're back. Chicken's in again for another 20 minutes. And so couldn't walk around. It was cold. Then eventually we're like, okay, let's just sit inside. So we sat inside at the bar, but that was kind of cold because the door was open. It really wasn't kind of our vibe. So we finished the tasting and we're like, okay, then you wanted to go get food, but then the food truck was closed and...
Well, no, then we were getting ready to leave.
Oh, yeah.
And you were going to pay.
Well, that's what's the next thing.
And then you're going to leave. And then I stepped outside and I saw that one of the fire pits was open, available.
That's right.
So I got your attention. And I went and sat down to get it. And then you came out and you're like, oh, do you want to like stay? I'm like, yeah. So since this is open, now I'd be down for me to go get something to eat. So I said, but I got to pee and I'm going to go get something to eat. And you're like, okay, cool. So you put some of our items down to save the spot. And then I was like, all right. Then I went and used the restroom. And then as I was walking to the food truck, it was closed. So I turned around, which when I say walking, it was like 300 feet away. It wasn't like it was if I had looked in that direction before I went to the restroom, I'd have noticed that they'd actually had closed the doors on it. So anyway, so that was next.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about that. We secured a fire pit. So I got us each a glass because then I thought you were getting food. I didn't know because I was coordinating all that the food truck was closed. Then you're like, okay, well, we're like, well, let's just, at least finish this glass. And then we were waiting to go, I was going to go pay. And I was like, oh, this was a really good bottle. Let's take a bottle home with us. Maybe we can stop somewhere on the food. And as I'm going to pay, the woman, our server goes, oh yeah, our Wi-Fi's been down for the last 2 days. So we can't actually pay with credit card unless you write down your credit card number here and do it like the old fashioned way. And then we'll charge you in a few days or if you have cash. Now, when you go to a vineyard, you spend some money. Like our total, like with the wine tasting and the extra glass and the bottle, we were at $120. Thankfully, you, Jesse, had cash on you because I did not feel comfortable leaving my credit card in a pile of just other credit card numbers. Like, that's just not, they should have been told to us at the beginning. So it's just like multiple things. It just wasn't a great experience. Wouldn't highly recommend this vineyard at all. It was actually the only vineyard we ended up going to. But unfortunately, it's not what I thought it would be. So sometimes it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah, between the heater, the lack of heaters, sort of the hit and miss service, like wasn't really great. Our server was pretty knowledgeable.
Yeah.
But sometimes we had to hunt her down, when we were ready for another tasting. But yeah, absolutely, like, there was multiple occasions where the staff should have been like, hey, just a heads up, our Wi-Fi is down. We will not be able to process any credit card payments unless you leave all that information with us.
Yeah.
Like, the host out at the parking lot could have said that. The server could have said that. Multiple times where somebody should have said that, because, everybody's not going to have comfort. I didn't want to leave my credit card information. No. And I just happened to have some cash on me, which I don't normally keep cash on me because you don't use cash anymore.
No.
So, that was disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah, but that led us to discovering a restaurant, which you ended up looking up, which was SY Kitchen back in Santa Ynez in the little downtown area. And we ended up going there because I had eaten so much of the smoked salmon platter. I had some bread, you had a pizza, we both had a drink, and then we split a delicious dessert, which was the pistachio creme brulee. So good. And we enjoyed the atmosphere so much. On our way out, we ended up making a reservation. So that was Sunday. My birthday was Tuesday. So we made a reservation for Tuesday night for my birthday. So it's kind of cool. We discovered that first night. And then we kind of just went back to the Airbnb. And then, the following morning we got up and it was absolutely beautiful. Like, walking around the farm a little bit with our cups of coffee in hand and just looking out at the landscape. And so we got ready and we went for a hike. We really wanted to go for a hike. There's some beautiful hiking trails. Because of all the rain we'd had in California recently, a lot of trails have been closed because of the muds and mudslides and stuff. So there was a trailhead area that I was able to find that I thought would be open. So we headed that way. It was about 15 minutes through Santa Ynez, through Los Olivos
right,
or something like that, up through there. And it was on like Figueroa Street, in which it's like the Figueroa Mountains. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Figueroa, I think it's like something like that. And so we ended up at this trailhead. It's kind of by the Midland schools if you're looking for trailheads. And the one we ended up doing was Lover's Loop, which was about a 4-mile loop. So that was really nice. So we started it out. We saw some parked cars, but didn't really run into too many hikers, which was really nice. I mean, we really had most of the hillside to ourselves. And the hike kind of started up in a hill with some flowers. Then as we slowly went down to the valley, beautiful hills, again, that lush green color. And then we ended up at the riverbed and made it back to the car. It was a beautiful hike.
Yeah, it was really, really gorgeous. There had been some mudslides, some places where the streams had collapsed hillsides a little bit. It was muddy in some spots, and we had to go off trail a couple times. But yeah, gorgeous hike.
Yeah, really beautiful. I'll probably post some photos. Of course, I'm going to post some photos on Instagram. But it was like overall beautiful hike, and you really got to look back out at the valley, kind of where we came from, and just more farmland and just gorgeous rolling hills. And on the way out from the hike, we drove past, actually, which I had no idea, neither one of us knew, along that road on the way back into town is where Michael Jackson's Neverland is. It's his property that he had where he built like a little amusement park. And it's now, since we looked into it, it was sold to a family friend of his, quote unquote, for like $22 million in 2020. But we drove past the gate. It looked like a very elaborate security gate, looked kind of ornate, weren't sure what we passed. And then as I was trying to find directions to get back to the Airbnb, I noticed on Google Maps it popped up like, here's Michael Jackson's Neverland. So that was kind of a whoa, no idea that that's where it was. So that's a real fun landmark there. And then we drove kind of back into town. We stopped at a local grocery store. And after kind of the event with the last vineyard, neither one of us really wanted to go to another vineyard. We were also very cold. I did look at one vineyard that possibly had space heaters, but it just looked out at vineyards. And our view from our Airbnb was so beautiful that we ended up just buying a few bottles, taking it back to our Airbnb, and we spent the rest of the afternoon, like we walked down the hill to the main road where we got to see the horse that's on our property. We kind of walked up and down the road. There was another neighboring horse. And as we were walking, a nice couple from the neighborhood was taking their horses out for a walk. So we talked to them for a little bit. And it was just like kind of a nice, just pleasant walking around. We played some cards and just kind of enjoyed ourselves. I really like that. I think that was like the best wine tasting was just at our Airbnb.
Yeah. Picked up some whole loaf of organic sourdough and some good meats and aged cheeses and some olives, some local olive. There's a lot of olive trees, but as we learned in the Guadalupe Valley a few years ago in some wineries, the olive trees kind of go hand in hand with vineyards already, but there's actually big olive production in that valley. So we picked up some local olives. Really good.
Yeah. It was a nice, we kind of had a little nice charcuterie board. So that was really good. And that was the eve of my birthday. So definitely looked out at the full moon. That was the one night we had clear skies, and it was the big full moon March 7th. So at least March 6th we got to see it because by March 7th it was pretty cloudy. Yeah, so that kind of was the eve of my birthday. And then the following morning we woke up and I was feeling a little under the weather, so I had enjoyed a little too much wine the night before. But we managed to, one thing I liked about this trip is we did yoga every morning. So that was really nice because the space was so spacious. Like our Airbnb was much bigger. Like, sometimes you see photos on Airbnb and you're like, they must have used a wide lens or something like that. This place was actually really big. So we had a whole living room space to use for our yoga. And that was really nice. We did a little yoga and then we headed towards Solveng. And I had heard about this like miniature horses. What were those called?
Shetland ponies.
The Shetland ponies. And there's like a Shetland pony farm you can go to. Although right now it says it's temporarily closed on Google. We did drive past it. And so we made it to Solveng, which from Santa Ynez, it's only 15 from our Airbnb, really. And one thing we didn't mention was the ginormous casino that is between Santa Ynez and Solveng. And it's kind of hidden. We saw it when we were going to Sunstone Wineries. And we're kind of driving. And I see this like big structure, but it kind of blends in. But there's a huge casino and hotel right there. So that was a little interesting to see. But drove into Solveng. And Solveng is the like Danish capital of the United States, is what the plaque said. But what it is Solveng is like a little town that Danish immigrants moved to. And we don't really know the history. I guess we didn't really think about it. But what happens was there's a lot of Danish people there, and there are like Danish buildings, and there's like a cute square and lots of bakeries, Danish food, Danish stores, all sorts of like Danish buildings and such. We didn't really look into the history. I know my mom's gonna let me know about the history after this episode. I should have her talk about these parts of the California. But anyway, Solveng is a very cute little town, and I had always heard about it, and everybody talks about, oh my gosh, the pastries are so good there. You have to have this. And so it was really fun to go there. And you surprised me with booking couples massage.
Did.
Yeah.
Found a really good spa in town, perfect 5-star rating, and great reviews. And set up a couple massages.
Yeah, that was a really sweet surprise. Yeah.
Again, that self-care. Like, just, I'd rather do that than, spend money on gadgets or clothes or
anything like that.
Just,
Yeah, so that was really nice. We kind of explored Solveng, did a little shop. We did do a little bit of shopping. We both needed new, like, wintry rain boot shoes because it's been so cold. Walked into the bookstore, kind of saw a few things. There was a crystal shop, of course, with, like, fairies and stuff. And so we walked around, and it was really sweet. And then we had our couples massage. We got a quick little bite to eat at an Irish pub, which I can't remember the name of at the moment, and then went to Chiffon Spa for massages and had great masseuses. Your masseuse. Work your back.
Oh, yeah. Liz, she's like the destroyer of worlds. Booked a deep tissue, and she's like, all right. She's like, well, just, she's like, a lot of people tell me, give me everything you got. And she's like, and they can't handle it. she really took me to the brink of or I was almost tapping, but she found just, she was saying that my back was really constricted and muscles were pulled in at the spine, and just found these knots, and she worked it, and she did a just brilliant job. And yeah, definitely the rest of this week I'm going to work on just going out and trying to really, like I told her, really kind of honor that massage by going out and just really giving it my all these next couple of days, where I just have some extra movement and vitality, and really make the most of it.
No, absolutely. Oh, good. And my massage was good too. I liked it. She found some spots in my hips and my shoulders and my legs, and especially the hiking the day before. So it was a really good massage. And then kind of walked around a little bit more. We bought some spices, and then we headed back to our Airbnb to kind of regroup. And then we had dinner reservations again at SY Kitchen back in Santa Ynez. And we arrived there. We parked. And what was really cool is the general manager, we'd kind of seen him the 2 nights before, opening the doors. So we weren't, he'd be, hi, bye, thank you so much for coming. And as we parked, he stepped out. And this was a fairly busy restaurant too, even on a Tuesday. He stepped out of the restaurant and opened the door for us. And as we were approaching, he goes, hey guys, welcome back. Thanks so much for coming. And we were like, whoa, that. I mean, and the hostess too, she's like, oh, you guys were here just the other night, weren't you? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, you guys look so familiar. Welcome back. And it was just such a great service from that moment. Even obviously, we didn't have such a personalized service to the Sunday night before, but it was such good food and such kind of a good atmosphere. We're like, hey, let's just come back here. And it was so worth it the second time. Our waiter, Brian, great, knew so much about the wines. He paired a very good wine with us. And then we mentioned I had the dairy allergy, and the soup special, the asparagus puree soup, it was just asparagus, olive oil, and salt, pepper, and thyme. Parsley. The best soup I think I've ever, I never thought I'd have asparagus soup. Absolutely delicious. The branzino special, they made it dairy-free for me. We had more olives. We had bread.
The thing that I like any quality restaurant should, if it's possible, can make something dairy-free. What I found really exceptional about Brian was we asked about the asparagus soup, and I asked, I said, is that dairy-free? I said, shit. I said, my wife has a dairy allergy. And he's like, yep. And he listed off every ingredient. We're like, okay, great. Then we just finished our order. And then later he came back just checking in hey, how are your appetizers? And then he said, hey, by the way, I asked the chef to remove the sauce. He's like, from your order, because it does have a small amount of butter in it. Just so you know, when your plate arrives, it does not have the sauce. So we didn't have to ask him to make the brands. He just on his own did that because he was just being thorough and exceptional in his job. And that kind of service, it's hard to come by. When you do find it, just great. Every individual there, from the busboy to the general manager, is just top-notch, thorough, just everything about that place. The food, the ambiance, everything.
The people watching was fun.
And we were there on a Tuesday night. It was absolutely smashed at 6:00.
Yeah.
And so you just know, there's very few people there were tourists. That's the locals.
Yeah.
And the place is not the cheapest place in town by any means. So it's swamped with locals, and it's a fairly pricey place, but absolutely worth it. The attention to detail there is phenomenal.
No, absolutely, yeah. That really was just an amazing dinner. And that kind of concludes, really, that we had dinner, then we went back to the Airbnb, and that was the end of my birthday. And it was actually a really, just in conclusion for the trip, it was really nice to get away for a few days, be out in nature, do a little wine, little food. We kind of had a few things planned, but not really. We kind of said, oh, we definitely want to do a hike. We found a hike. no vineyard, we kind of we did a few things. Oh no, before we had dinner at SY Kitchen, we ended up going for a wine tasting at Crosshatch, which is a little wine tasting room in Santa Ynez, just down the street from SY Kitchen. And the gentleman we didn't know if he'd let us in because it was after 5, but he let us sit there, gave us a nice...
Yeah, his name was Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, the owner typically doesn't like us to start tastings after 5 o'clock because he wants to have a relaxing 1 hour experience. Yeah, after we sat down and got settled, he definitely warmed up to us and we chatted a little bit. It was a really good experience. Bought a bottle there for some friends. Great. It was great.
No, it was. So yeah, the last evening we kind of took it easy. Following, our last morning we woke up, did the usual, walked around in the morning, cup of coffee in hand, looked at the hillsides. Of course, every morning we got to, see the donkeys. They were always kind of feeding. And then we saw the goat down the road, and we also saw the cats. A few cats would come and visit. Some were more friendlier than others. Some were very needy. But overall, it was absolutely relaxing. I feel very relaxed and rejuvenated. So thanks for going with me. I enjoyed my birthday.
You bet. Happy birthday, my love.
Thank you. And thank you for listening. If you like this episode, please give it a heart or thumbs up and click the follow button so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can also follow me on Instagram at From the Honeycomb Podcast. And if you'd like, you can also subscribe to my new monthly newsletter that comes out on the 7th. Yes, the first edition actually came out while we were in Santa Ynez. And so you definitely want to check that out. I'll provide a link in the show notes for subscription. Thank you so much and see you all next week.